There's this whole thing going on with my crown and the dentist who did it. Well, more likely the office. I know I did a big update in February about it. Today I'm supposed to get my permanent crown put on. Still gonna do that, leaving for the dentist's office shortly. I didn't explain the whole craziness other than the antibiotic ridiculousness. 2 weeks ago when I went in for my teeth cleaning, I learned something obnoxious that they did not share with me or elect to share with me. They changed the entire cost of the procedure to include something that I didn't know was an additional cost. The crown procedure was supposed to be covered by my insurance. I showed up to get my crown procedure done in February, and they were like, oh, we need to do a gum thing to make space. And I was like, okay, that's part of the crown procedure. You said that you might have to do something. That's fine, whatever. So we got the crown procedure approved by insurance. Everything was good, all cleared, using up a lot of insurance, done. 2 weeks ago, when I went in, they were like, oh, so thanks for coming back, getting your teeth cleaned, whatever. You actually didn't pay for your crown yet. I was like, no. You told me I finished paying for my crown. I just gave you like $800 of my dollars and the rest was covered by insurance. Like, I've paid for the crown. No, don't want this confusion. And they're like, no, you've paid for the gum thing. I was like, no, the gum thing's part of the crown. We talked about this. You told me everything was good. You even told me I paid more. No. So what happened was they basically gave me a procedure that I didn't know about. They didn't tell me about it. They were doing it and they're like, oh, we need to make room. So this is just part of your crown procedure. But what they didn't decide to tell me was that the cost that was going to accrue was basically the same cost that was going to be covering my crown. I don't know if anyone's had a crown done, but a crown's like $1,500, at least here. And I owe all that out of pocket because they elected to do something different without telling me that the entire cost of the procedure was going to change. So it's beyond annoying. How come you didn't decide to tell me until last time I was there that I was I've only paid for less than half? Why did you change the entire, I wouldn't have done the gum thing. And they're like, well, we had to though. And we didn't know. And I was like, well, when you knew, I should have been looped in on that. Ridiculous. And I get to go sit in a chair, get a permanent crown put in, and I have to fight with a receptionist about the fact that nobody was clear. And then, yeah, that's just bleh. I don't really think that was my misstep for needing to ask for more clarification. If you tell me I'm done paying for something, I'm done paying for something. See you next time. It was also weird too because I know crowns before and after usually only take a week, or not a week, 2 weeks maybe to get the new one in. And I had to wait 6. So I've had this temporary crown in my mouth for 6 weeks. Not my favorite time. Wanted to rant about it just because it's I guess on a more positive note, I took such good care of this temporary one that hopefully it gives me a good idea of how to not break an actual permanent one. I had to eat on one side of my mouth and then got to shift back to the other side after the stitches healed from the gum graft. Worked fine for me and didn't chip at anything. I just can't floss and do all the stuff that I would like to in between, which is why I got my teeth cleaned this time. On the slim chance that this was just one receptionist telling me the wrong information, which I doubt because they usually don't make the mistake in this direction, I obviously won't be going back to this dentist anymore. There's just been a couple of signs that it's just not the right place. It happened towards the beginning anyway when I was getting a cavity done last year and has continued into trying to overprescribe antibiotics and receptionists making big enough mistakes that are going to cost me $1,500. So it gets weirder, worse, whatever you want to call it. So those are photos. I really thought I was getting my permanent crown put in today. Was not. It was just another impression being taken. So the third impression being taken. The gum thing really threw everything off. Getting a gum graft without realizing, having it add all the cost and having it fuck up the timeline by 8 weeks. Very confusing, but I think I've worked it out in enough of a way that in 2 weeks when I get it finally done, we're just gonna be done. And I got confirmation today that it is the case. So I was polite, everything was fine, but I had to be very today, which is fine, but again, I'm still a little bit numb, but I'm gonna try and eat now because it's been over an hour. Redoing my entire budget and finances because of this added cost. This is not something I was expecting to have to take on the cost of, so it kind of requires a little bit of planning. I feel like I'm drooling still because I have the thingy. But anyway, I've healed quite well. everything's okay with the gums and is good. But again, I got the temporary one put in today again, and I thought it was permanent, and she was like, whoop, it fell out. I was like, the permanent crown fell out 2 minutes after you put it in? She's like, no, it's temporary. I'm like, what's happening? What is happening? And so I had to stay for an extra like 25 minutes to get multiple explanations and clarifications while being numb and like biting my face, and it was great. It'll all be okay. Good morning. Whoop. I need a haircut. You find me on my way shortly to finally get my crown put on. The permanent crown this time, which we had lots of confusion, lots of misunderstanding, and lots of nonsense as a part of. The appointment actually got moved up as well because originally it was supposed to be next Tuesday, and it is currently a Thursday because they got the, you know, permanent crown back from the lab or wherever it gets made, I don't know, early. So they were like, would you like to come in now? I was like, yeah, because I'm ready for this to be done. Most people just have their temporary crown on for like, I don't know, a week or two max, depending on how long it takes to make. I've had this temporary, not this one. This temporary's been on for a week and 2 days. The last temporary was on for over 4 weeks. Actually, 6 weeks. That's true. Yeah, it's February 11th. Damn. But yeah, I'm done. I don't think you can see back there, but I do have a photo or a video, or I'll take a better one shortly. But yeah, the process is complete, and that's really great. You fell. All the way at the back. So, oh, a bird pooped out my window. Get out. Get out. I'm just gonna like empty all my windshield wiper fluid at the process. Yeah, the crown is fully on, the permanent one. Oh my God. I got a gum graft and the permanent crown, which is why the whole process was so lengthy and expensive, because normally, like I was saying earlier today or at some point during this process, the crown itself is an expensive procedure to have like the impressions taken and then your tooth like sanded down and everything. But because it was the backmost one and I had my wisdom teeth in forever, the gum line was way too high and they needed to pull it down and actually physically remove bone to get to a reasonable what is it, pocket, because sometimes there's too much like behind it that you can't actually clean the back of that back tooth, and so yeah, it was just not the best spot to need something like this because it's so hard to reach and it's so far back, because they had to go all the way behind the back molar to reach to you know, and then to remove all of that. And I remember there was a video when they were doing stitches that I had filmed a little while ago where they were suctioning out so much blood because they had to remove both bone and gum, which was crazy because I remember being in so much pain. I was like, no wonder, because it literally took bone and gum out. I was like, this is beyond. I mean, like, it wasn't as bad as the wisdom tooth, obviously, because there wasn't the gaping hole and they stitched it, but it was really painful for like 2 days. And then I, you know, started getting a handle on it, but even healing it was so tricky and complicated. So thank goodness this lengthy process is complete. The only reason that one was needed because the wisdom tooth grew in, impacted, and bonked the back of that tooth so much that it kind of just had a cavity that was forming below the gum line, and there was nothing left of it to fill. Okay, well, now that process is over, I'm gonna head home. I can't put in my retainers tonight, and I have to remember that. I can't put in my retainers on the bottom just because they're like, let it settle for like 24 hours. And I was like, for sure. I don't want to need this again, for sure.